Climate change. Climate is always changing. The weather changes, the climate changes, year by year, decade by decade, century by century. Mother Nature, the sun, even the moon has an effect. Sun, of course, is the strongest effect on weather and climate. Without the sun warming the earth, there's no life here. Quite a change in climate from inhabitable to our beautiful planet Earth. Today, a group of men and governments and the elite behind them have decided to get up to the crap table and roll the dice and bet against nature. They bet, starting with Al Gore, that carbon dioxide gas was warming the planet and that it was a danger to all of us. As the planet cools, which it is doing now rapidly, this whole structure of people, governments, scientific organizations are desperate to convince the public in the face of cooling that it's warming. Every day we get an essay in one magazine or journal or newspaper telling us about global warming, when the news is cooling. The easiest way to know that this group of scientists, who the American ones are actually traitors to the United States government, the United States people. They're just lying. And they're being caught in their lies now. More and more people, and I'm talking hundreds of millions, probably 150 million Americans experienced global cooling this past week, many these past months. The snow started in August, accelerated into September, October, winter conditions, dead winter in the middle to end of November. The way you can tell that these people are lying is that they pretend the sun doesn't exist. They don't mention the sun. They don't talk about the sun. They just talk about carbon dioxide, their computer models, and their insistence. But the sun is studied by astrophysicists. We have satellites in orbit around the sun. Mankind has been studying the sun for centuries. And right now it's going to sleep. We're going into a called a solar minimum. Creates cold. NASA says it's getting colder up in the upper atmosphere rapidly. Will you hear a global warming essay speak about that? Speak about the physics and that the fact that the sun is dimming and will for the next few decades. It's happened before. No, they don't mention it at all. They just pretend it doesn't exist. The increased precipitation, the intensity of snowstorms and rain and hail. This is not caused by global warming, it's caused by global cooling. Global cooling means the sun is cooling and putting out less radiation, meaning less protection from the Earth against the cosmic rays coming in from the rest of the galaxy. These increased rays, cosmic rays, they penetrate the atmosphere, even penetrate the Earth. But as they're going through the atmosphere, they create more clouds, so more precipitation. Bottom line, if you study science today, which you can't find in the newspapers and in all these online magazines that spout out global warming. It can't be warming and cooling at the same time, but a lot of people are pretending that that's exactly the case. There are more polar bears than ever before. There's plenty of ice in the poles. Nobody's drowned on the beach from rising sea levels, but we hear about it all the time. The cold is going to be a lot more threatening to civilization than the heat. With the heat, we would have been producing much more food in Canada, in Siberia, northern China. Now the growing districts are shrinking. Right now the growing season is shrinking. There are a lot of people in the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, most of the people don't have heat. It doesn't get as cold as the north. We spend a lot of money heating our homes and offices, a lot of air conditioning too when it gets hot. But with longer winters, with it being colder, which it has been lately in the Midwest and in the East Coast of the United States, and many other places around the world, including Australia, the cold is not something to take lightly. And the shock wave of when the media and the governments have to admit, they won't admit it, they'd rather commit treason, they'd rather spit on President Trump's face, who's one of the few politicians who will stand up and point out that he doesn't believe it. Well, it is the matter, weather and climate is not a matter of belief. It's a matter of science, it's a matter of measurement, it's a matter of reality. So American scientists, and in England, they have abandoned science and created something, this enormous scam. Beware, becoming cold. It's not something in the future years, next decade. It's now. It's this winter. It's this month. It's a month before winter. You have to protect yourselves. You have to become aware of the effects of cold, how cold, damp conditions create the flu, and how to treat that without dying. Climate is important. It's important. And the Chinese doctors from thousands of years ago recognized this, using climate like cold conditions, damp conditions, hot conditions, dry conditions in the body. These things all happen. We have weather events in the body. It's actually not weather, it's usually climate in the body. We have a tendency to be cold or too hot. So climate change. Right now is a battle between liars and a handful of people who have the courage to stand up and say no. Say yes to climate change. Say no to man-made global warming. CO2 is not a dangerous gas, it's a healthy gas. It's a medical gas. It's a gas the plants love. Our mitochondria love it. We need it. Exercise is healthy because of the creation of lots of CO2. Opens up a lot of oxygen to the cells. Climate change is real. Man-made global warming is a scam. Fantasy, lie, or the most arrogant bet against Mother Nature. In this case, Mother Nature wins. Sorry, guys. You lose. You lose.